let's just start off with something very basic.
Uh-huh.
What is, again, correct me if I'm wrong, Eid al-adha?
Adha. Adha.
Eid al-adha.
Okay. We'll take
I'll
that.
work on it. I'll
We'll
work on
take
it.
that. It's comprised. This phrase Eid al-adha is comprised of two words, Arabic words. The first word is Eid. More people may be familiar with that word Eid, which means basically a festival. In Islam, there are two religious festivals, major, that everyone celebrates. And one of them is the Eid that comes immediately after the month of Ramadan, which is the month of fasting, the day that begins the next month. Of course, we're talking about the Islamic year, so each month has its own names and so on. I don't want to complicate things for you by giving you all the names. So we celebrate that occasion at the end of the month of fasting. So that's an Eid. It is called Eid al-Fitr, and that is, Fitr means the breaking of the fast or the end of the fast, the festival that comes at the end of the fast. And this one that we are entering into is called Eid al-Adha, the festival of the sacrifice. Adha means sacrifice. And this is commemorating the sacrifice that Abraham started, peace be upon him and peace be upon all of the prophets. He was called to sacrifice his son, as you know, the story is common in both the Bible as well as the Quran. And he was about to do so. He fulfilled all of the steps to make that sacrifice. And when he was, at the very last point, just before he passed the knife over the throat of his son, he was told to stop, don't go ahead. But a ram was provided for him, and that's what he sacrificed instead. So Muslims celebrate that occasion and commemorate it by doing a sacrifice.
But then let's go back to the festival, the sacrifice. What goes on that day?
Now, the festival of the sacrifice is that on that specific day, which is the 10th of the Islamic month, when they finish most of the rituals of the Hajj, this is when they have to make the sacrifice. There is when they go to the Kaaba, they have to go to the Kaaba and circumambulate around it, and then there are two hills nearby, a reasonable distance away from each other, and they have to go between these, almost running, not completely running, sort of walking at a fast pace between the two. These are called Safa and Marwa. And so they go between that 7 times, starting at Safa, and so they end up at Marwa, and so that completes the rituals of the main rituals of the Hajj. They will either shave their head at that time, completely, or just cut their hair short. That's part of the sacrifice.
Just for men, or is that
for the men? For the women, they will cut just a tiny piece of the hair, right? And then they go to do the sacrifice of the animal. Again, these days, all of that is catered for. So many people do not have to actually go and do the sacrifice themselves. There are others who will do it for them.
Does it have to be a ram, like in the Abrahamic account, or can it be a different animal?
It can be a different animal. There are several different animals that are permissible. There are, what you call the cattle. So they range from the sheep and goats, and cows, and anything of the family of the cows, right? Anything like that, as well as camels. So these are the animals that one can sacrifice. If one is sacrificing a sheep or a goat, it's 1 per person, more or less. If you're sacrificing something bigger than that, a cow or a camel, then you can have 7 shares in those bigger animals. In other words, 7 people can come together and sacrifice one of those animals.
And what does a sacrifice look like, and what is then the animal used for?
Generally speaking, whenever we slaughter an animal, for consumption, we have to do it in a particular way. The neck has to be cut, the jugular vein, and the other things, the pipes or whatever we
the
call
arteries,
the other arteries, and so they have to be cut. So that and it is done as swiftly as possible. The knife has to be as sharp as possible, and so it's done quickly. There is very, very little pain to the animal. Although we hear that people object to this killing of animals and so on, but really the way it is done Islamically, there's very little pain to the animal. It is done very quickly, and then the blood flows out. So we have to allow all of the blood as much as possible to flow out from the animal. We do not consume blood. Right? So then after that, the animal is cut up, skinned and cut up and so on. And usually right there, there are those people who are the cooks and so on who will cook part of it, and many if not all of the pilgrims will have a taste of the animal that they sacrificed. And it may last them for several days. Also, they may continue to eat from it for several days. For those who are not on the pilgrimage, like ourselves here, we try to make a sacrifice also. It is strongly recommended. And then we would distribute the meat. We would consume some of it ourselves and save, maybe freeze it up so we can use it over a period of time. And then we would also distribute a portion. It's almost like 1/3, 1/3, 1/3. 1/3 for ourselves, another third for family and friends, and then another third for the poor. Generally, it's not an exact thing, right? But generally speaking, 1/3 should go to the poor, and that will be more difficult to do, in Mecca and the surrounding areas, right? Because nobody is at home.
How's that done here in the States? I'm just imagining what that could look like with maybe, I don't know, food laws or anything like that, or safety, health concerns, or anything with the meat not reaching this destination in time. Like how do you distribute that efficiently to the poor?
There are collection centers. Our mosque here is a collection center for the meat. So anybody who wants, we have several freezers, and whoever wants to make that contribution, and they will bring the meat and leave it there, and then later on others will pick it up and take it around to the needy people. And they can come and pick up from here also, right? We usually publicize it, that we have the meat here. Anybody who wants to
so it's almost like a food bank, except it's not canned goods. It's
the fresh meat. It's the fresh meat, and so all of it will be gone within a day or two. The sacrifice can be made not only on the day of the sacrifice itself, the festival day, which is the 10th of the month, but one can do the sacrifice on the 3 following days also. That is rarely done. Most people prefer to do it on the first day, the day of the festival, and then once they have done that, and if they are able to do it early enough, because it takes time. One has to go maybe to a butchery, and the butchers there will help them to do the sacrifice. If a person doesn't have any experience in that, it may be difficult for him to do it, right? Even the passing of the knife over the throat of the animals and so on. One has to have a skill in doing it.
Yes, my family has been done hunting and stuff for years, and skinning, all that stuff. There's a whole skill.
Right, you have to have the skills. So those who cannot do it, they will get the help of butchers. They may go to a butchery or the slaughterhouse where the butchers actually do their slaughtering and so on. Or they may go to a farm And there are many farms here in New Jersey, and people make arrangements with the farm. They perhaps select the animals that they're going to slaughter beforehand, and so immediately after the prayer, there's an early prayer for the 10th, the day of the festival, right? So when that prayer is done, and like we have one of those prayers starting at 6 o'clock, and by 7 o'clock everybody can be out of here, right? So they go to the farms, and they may have to wait their turn if there's a long line for the other people. They may have to wait their turn, and when the turn comes, they either themselves or the people in the farm themselves, because they are more skilled in handling the animals. They by help in the slaughtering and skinning of the animals and so on, cutting them up. So people will take away all of that, the meat, in order to distribute it. Most of us, as soon as we leave the farm or we leave the butchery, we want to distribute the meat. We go, to where the meat is to be distributed. If we know people ourselves, poor people, we go to them and we give it to them. We give to family and friends and so on.
Yeah.
So most of it is gone, and the part that remains, maybe what we cannot distribute ourselves. If we don't know many poor people and so on, we come, we put it in the freezers here at the mosque. And then it will later in the day be picked up and taken to the poor people.